Yo, in this video I'm going to be going through how I edit my videos. A lot of people have been asking for this video ever since I started editing. I'm going to go through how I sync my clips, use transitions and effects and stuff. A lot of people say highlight editing is super easy and just preset. And to be honest, it is pretty simple. But highlight editing has become very popular recently. I am lucky enough to be one of the first people who popularized this style of editing, so I thought I'd finally make a video on this. Also, I'm going to start uploading a lot more regularly with more effort in all my videos, so comment what type of videos you want me to make. The first thing I do when I get sent clips is I name them all from best to worst. I use this ranking system by putting like an exclamation point and then a 1, 1.5, or pretty much the lower the number the better the clip. This is pretty much just so you can use the best clips at the start of the montage and like don't bury them. After that, you just want to go in Vegas and open a new project file. If you want any of the settings I use in this video, they all will be in my pack, which I'll link in the description. After you've done that, you probably want to come up to a file and save it, just so you don't lose anything and it auto saves. I'm just going to call this one test. So then you should just be able to drag in your song. When you're in Sony Vegas, if you go to a certain point on the timeline and press M, it will drop a marker for you. So what I usually do is I just mark the first few beats in the song. You can kind of tell there's like a beat every few seconds that just kind of matches for the kill. Like, so now that I've marked the first beat, I'm just going to drag in the first clip. When this pops up, you just want to say no, because your project files will probably be a higher resolution than the clip. The reason I render in a higher resolution than the actual clip is because when you upload to YouTube in a higher resolution, the video will be able to have more bitrate. When you put the clip in, you pretty much just want to find where the impact is, so like obviously this will be the win. I go a frame before the impact and I press S on the keyboard where I want to cut it and just delete the back clip for now. Then what you want to do is pretty much just drag the end of it to the first marker where you want the impact to be, so like the beat. And then from there you can just drag it out the back and then you have it synced to the beat. When starting the montage, I usually just put a crossfade, so what it does is it just like fades in from black at the start. How you do this is there's a little blue thing at the top of each clip on the timeline and you can just drag that to how long you want it to be. This is usually where I add my indent or whatever you guys want to add, like an edited by. You don't have to do this, it's just like if you want to put your own branding on the video. Also, if your indent is in a .mov file, all you have to do is go to properties, media, alpha channel, pre-multiplied and hit OK, and then it's a transparent background. So now that we have this, what you pretty much want to do is just find where you want to end the clip. So I usually put a transition at the click. So there's usually like a click or a kick after every main beat. So like you can kind of hear it there. And then I just cut the clip there and delete the back. I press S to cut the clip and just to delete on my keyboard, but you can just right click and go to delete wherever that is up here. This is where I usually add my velocity. Velocity is pretty much slow-mo for people who don't know. This is how I do it. I just go here, insert remove envelope on velocity. So this whole thing is pretty much just like your time of the clip, like how fast you want it to go. You can add markers and stuff. The higher you put it, the faster it'll be, the lower. Normal is just set at 100. To change it, you just come to the dot right here. I know you can't really see it, but you can add them whenever you want. So I can put one right here on the beat. To add one, you just double click. So like you can put them wherever you want. So I usually put one on the beat right here, and then I'll put one behind it and then bring this up. So to bring it up, you need to find out how much you want it. So you're just gonna right click and choose whatever. You can set it to a custom one if you want. I set this one usually to around 300, and then right after I set this to 150. At this point I usually bring in my bass swoosh, so I'm just dragging that in from a folder. Bass swoosh is pretty much just like a whooshing sound. It just kind of adds impact. If you want this, it is in my editing pack. So that's just the sound it makes. Then you just want to find a point, like I usually just base it off where the bass swoosh ends or begins and just double tap to make a marker and then set this to normal. It doesn't have to be too specific. I know some people have like specific like keyframes they set this to, but I just kind of guess and like see where it syncs up. You can also right click and change this like how fast you want it to be. It kind of just changes it like the flow. I set mine to slow just because it kind of like swooshes up. I don't think there's that big of a difference, but it just adds a little bit. So I just moved this pointer closer or further back to the actual impact until it's synced. So as you can see here, it's like 3 keyframes off. To go back and forth one frame, by the way, just use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So because it's off, I'm just going to move this closer and now it's only 2 keyframes off. 2 keyframes off is fine, 2 or 1 is usually what I go for. And then you want to find a point after. It's not really specific. Make a point there and right click, and I set it to 60. So let's see what we have so far. I wouldn't really set this to 60 on wins just because it is slow-mo anyway. So I'm going to put this up to like 120 or something like that, just so you can notice like actual movement, because when it's 60 it's really slow because the game is slow already because of the win. But for normal kills I would just leave this at 60, the end one. For this tutorial you will need Sapphire and BCC, mainly Sapphire though. You can get away without having BCC. Sapphire and BCC are pretty much just plugins for Vegas, so like they'll pop up here in your video effects in the top left. So on my impact I use a screen pump, and what I use for that is blur mode curves. So to add your effect, pretty much all you're going to do is just type it in this search bar where it says video effects, and then find your effect and just drag it onto the clip you want. To keyframe your effect, so it just pops up in a specific area, you just have to click this little button next to it, animate, and then it'll come up with a timeline on the bottom of the effect. Then you can come to on the timeline where you want the effect to be, so I'm going to choose the impact and I'm just going to make a keyframe there. So I just put my preset in. I pretty much just put a keyframe on the impact. I put a keyframe before it to the normal so it would change pretty fast, and then I put a keyframe at the end of the clip back to the normal zoom. If you want to know my specific preset, it's all in my pack. I'll link it in the description. So this is what it's going to look like. You don't really notice it as much in wins, but it just adds a little bit of impact. The second effect I'll be using is of course shake. So I'm just going to do the same thing and drag it onto the clip. So when you're in this menu you want to animate your amplitude and then click to the point where you want to put your preset, and then I'm going to add my preset. After I've done that, I set the frame before it to have no amplitude and the frame at the end to have no amplitude, so you can see the difference. This is what we have so far. So as you can see there's not much impact right now, so I'm just going to add some Y shake. So Y shake is pretty much just where it shakes the screen up and down. For this effect I drag on shake and I animate amplitude and frequency, and then I just put on my Y shake preset, which is in my pack. For Y shake I go a few frames before the impact, so it kind of builds up, and then you just go a few frames after and set it to 0, again. So this is what you'll see in the video. Another effect I will be using is flicker. So when you're dragging that on, you pretty much just want to animate amplitude and then go to the point where the impact is. I just put my preset on and then I set the frame before to 0 and the frame at the end to 0. So this is what we have so far. So for the transition, at this point I usually drag in my second clip and find the point of impact. So I'm going to do right here where he gets the red dots on the shotgun shot. Find this on the timeline and go to this point and then split your clip. Delete the back half and then just drag this to the marker you made earlier for the second beat and extend it to the end of this first clip. Then you just want to listen for the little click after the beat, and that's usually where I put my transition.
Nice.
So right about here, and then I'm just going to delete that. For my transition I just use a preset, so to apply that what I do is just press FX and I just click add my preset and click add and OK. So this will add the effect to the start of the clip only. See, these type of presets you can only use for the start of the clip unless you want to drag them, but I usually just use these for the start. So there's no real transition on the first clip to sync into the second clip, so I'm just going to put blur mode curves on this and I'm going to animate Z, dist, shift X and shift Y, and then apply my preset. And then I just go 5 frames back and I set them all to slow. So this is what it will look like so far.
Take a tick now. Take a tick now. Nice.
So for the second clip I'm just going to add the velocity and effects and just do the same thing and what I did for the first clip and show you guys. So for the second clip I just added blur mode curves and shake, so a screen pump and shake. So this is what it looks like. That's pretty much it. If you want to make a longer video, of course just keep copying this method and just do it the whole way through. You guys can mess around and do different velocities and like try different effects and stuff, but this is just pretty much my base of editing. If you do this, you'll get a pretty simple edited highlight video. All the settings for the effects I use in this video are in my pack. If you're interested in buying that, I'll put a link for it in the description. And if you want 15% off on the pack, you use the code I'm going to put on the screen right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope I helped in some way, and hopefully now you can edit highlight videos a bit better. If you learned anything from this vid or enjoyed it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment with what you want to see next.